1 2 1 2 3 4 3 4. We're live. I don't know why I use the what's it called, a Buhari accent to do the 1 2 1 2 3 4.
Now your real accent. That's your.
So it's my real accent.
What is it? Okay, the audio is coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Audio is coming out real good.
Oh yeah.
Real
Do
good.
the introduction. Let me go ahead and tweet about it.
I tweeted already. See from.
I think that's why I got the notification. Okay.
I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss you for when you're gone. Wait, would I get a what's it called? Copyright strike because I'm singing I'm gonna miss you?
I have no idea. Wait, for singing it?
Or singing it?
I know in YouTube they're crazy like that, but I don't think Twitch is. I don't know.
I'm just saying words, though. Please, the owner of Twitch, I'm just babbling.
Like Bezos.
Jeff, please, Jeffrey Bezos. I was just saying words. Do not, thou shalt not give me. We plead that thou do not give me a copyright strike. I was going to say thou shalt not give me, as in, like, I'm commanding him.
We just block each other
with immediate alacrity. So recap from last week. But before I do that, let me share my screen because that happens first. Before I share my screen, are you ready to get started?
Yep.
Okay, let's do that. Delete. Oh my gosh, I pushed the button, but I don't know if that worked. I think that worked. Compared to last week where I forgot to start sharing my screen earlier. I had to what's it called? This time around, it's like part of my checklist of things to do. Yeah.
I messed up twice in a row. Okay.
So where were we? Oh, I said to myself I was gonna do some pre-work on this, but it doesn't matter. So what are the things we did on Tuesday? We pretty much finished the styling for the index page, and a lot of the styling for the index page involved the header, which we were already done with, but we styled some of the font sizing for that, I believe. We added the styling for, I gave an explanation as to how the margin zero auto works, and why we are using it, and pretty much a history behind that. We also apply the same principle for the action buttons, and we gave this whole div over here, the container, a class of actions, and we gave it this background, a padding top and bottom of 10 pixels, so that's why we have the space here and here, and we gave it a border of 1 pixel, and that's why it looks a little bit different than what we have over here, and with the color. For the div containing these buttons, we called it actions container, and we gave it a margin 0 auto and a max width of 600 pixels, so it's just pretty much from here to somewhere here maybe. We also styled the inputs directly. Instead of giving the input field a class, we just gave it we just use the generic CSS selector for the HTML elements, and the same thing for the select. We did some font work where we imported some fonts. I showed you how to import fonts and use them, but over here we are not using any of the fonts we imported. Also styled the notes section and the notes. Styled this with regards to having it, you know, in the center. We gave it some margin top and not margin top and bottom to give a space at the top and the bottom of the notes. Test align center, gave it the color, font size, and the create note button, we did text decoration none because it's an anchor tag, and if we don't have that, it's going to have like the underline. And we give it a color and font size and also padding all around so that it could expand its what's it called, size overall. We also gave it a transition based on the background, and the background only changes when we hover. So anytime we hover, there is a, you know, a slight fade in, versus if we take out the transition and refresh, it just like changes, like it's a lot more snappy versus this where it's like it fades in, just to give it that kind of sweet easy transition. We also looked at how we could use that for some other HTML properties, like I believe we looked at something like this where, yeah, you can use it to expand, and if you want it to be a lot more faster, you just 0.3 and it's a lot faster, you know, reduce the time it takes. So those are the things we did. Now when we click on the create notes link, it takes us to the edits.html link, and we can see over here that we do have some what's it called, we have the HTML for that, and none of it is styled. Now let's go to the edit page for this. When we click on it, this is a lot more styled than, you know, what we have here. So that's the thing we're going to be styling. And I'm going to hopefully try teaching some basic practice with regards to how you can even reuse styles that we've created here, because when you look at the home page, the header is still the same, right? The styling is still the same, but the what's this called? We called it the action, where we have the action buttons or the action items. I should have called it like action bar or something like that, so that, you know. Thanks for the follow, WavyNed. Thanks for the follow. But yeah, we're going to have to reuse the style we used over here for this, you know, for this section, and, you know, some of the styles also for the button. So I'm going to try teaching you on how to reuse those styles, and also something we called refactoring, where it's like you have a code that have been written by a developer at a previous time, but now in the future the design has changed a little bit, so we want to like edit the code pretty much. So you have a concept of how to, you know, when you go into a new code base, maybe at a company, you have an idea as to how to walk around the code base and understand what's going on. To get started, let's click on the create note button and go to what's it called, the create edits.html page. That should take us to the edits.html page. We're going to be copying everything that's here. First things first is rest in peace, Uncle Phil. Again. So I'm sorry. It's in my what's it called? It's in my head today. I should have played the song before starting the stream, man. But yeah, the first thing we're gonna do is, when we look at the index.html and the edits.html, the header is different. Like what we have in the header section, it's a little bit different. The HTML content is the same, but the HTML content with respect to the h1 tag and the h2 tag is the same, but the div has a class of header container and it has a parent element of header. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we can decide to copy and paste that, or we can decide to, format this header section and include those information so that it looks exactly like this, because at the end of the day, it's consistent between both pages. It's the same thing between both pages. Does that make sense? So now what we can do is, for me, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy everything from the header section, from the opening header to the closing header, everything included in it, because it is the same thing, right? So I'll copy it and then I'll go to the edit.html, and the first div, from the opening to the closing div, for that first div, you can highlight it and just paste it. So I use Control-C for copy, or on Mac, it's going to be Command-C and Control-V for paste, or on Mac, Command-V. So what we're doing is we're overwriting that, the HTML that was there present initially. So when I save it and refresh, you should see, or the expectation is, since we copied what's in the index.html, the styling should be the same for the header section. And one might say, oh, how come the CSS got applied? Ralph, do you have a guess to that?
How come the CSS got
applied
to
the
second page?
Yeah.
Because they're using the same. What's this? I don't know the CSS name for it. Let me see. Elements class. So you're saying why the CSS that got applied?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's the same CSS. Is it reference?
Sorry?
It's not reference. The block.
The link.
Oh, like what? We already did this. Wait, I'm so confused. We did this whole link.
Yeah, we did.
In the past.
Yeah. So because we have that link, that's why the CSS from this file got applied to this HTML file.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the whole page. I thought you were talking about like why did it get applied to that specific section. I was saying like the div class.
Oh yeah,
the header container div class is
exactly
in the index.
Exactly. Let me that's also valid. That's also valid. I was going to bring that. I was going to actually say that next, but you were way ahead of me. You were way ahead of me. So just in case anyone is trying to understand why the CSS got applied, first of all, we linked the initial CSS file that had all the CSS styles we had defined for the index.html file. And when we copied and paste the header, since we're already linking the CSS file, when we copied and paste the header, the browser looks at, oh, okay, yeah, it has the ID of header, it has a class of header container, we have this CSS file called index.csx, and the index.css have styles for those IDs in class. So as a result of that, they got applied in this specific page. That is for anyone who's trying to understand. And all of a sudden, we've copied and pasted, we have an understanding of how everything is connected, and yeah, it works. So if we go back, if we click on home, it like the style is correct, and if we click on create, the style is still the same. It's all still the same. Now, an interesting thing is, we're going to apply a similar concept for the next design, and that next part is going to be this section here. So how are we going to apply the CSS to this section? This section maps to this HTML we have over here. So that's also the same thing as this. So we want to apply this style to this section. And then if we go home, we see that it is the same section. The only thing is we are no longer using the input and the select elements. This time around, we're using just href that has home and this edited few seconds ago's paragraph, or span. We call it span, which I've explained in a previous episode, I believe episode 3 or so, or episode 4, sorry, episode 2. So how are we learning with what we've learned from last week? Ralph, do you want to lead us with applying the CSS to this?
Give me 1 sec. I just have to confirm which. Okay, hold on. So section header container before. It's going to take me a while, so rather than just having
it is going to, but I think the idea is just say what's in your mind. Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind with regards to, okay, how you attack this, how you solve it?
Personally,
Yeah.
Someone who likes to take shortcuts, I would most likely use the CSS from the actions and actions container.
Exactly.
I'll try both of them because I'm not really sure. I think both of them affect that space, so it's just you just have to copy the let me see. Okay.
To boost your confidence, you are correct.
Yeah, but I'm trying to see because why is it not being referenced? Hold on. Oh, okay, it's already being referenced. Yeah, so just to be this, I already went ahead and did it on my own.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, but I think I messed up because I put the actions container. Or did I really mess up? Yeah, I think I definitely. I put the actions container for where the body, so where the note itself
Oh, I
was
see.
supposed to be rather than where the whole
Exactly.
is. So yeah, I'm trying to fix that now. But go
So,
ahead, yeah.
so to give a summary of what Ralph said and how we're going to be solving it is when we compare the home page, which is the same as index.html, we compare the style with or the structure with the edit.html with what we're trying to replicate. It's the same styling. Now, when we look at the HTML for what's on the home page or index.html, and we compare that to edit.html, we can see that, oh, we're definitely missing some div and also the CSS classes in order for the styles to be applied here. So I'll go ahead and do it. And to do it, I'm just going to add the initial div, which is called action. So this div called actions, I will add it right here. And as you can see, my IDE completed auto completes the open and the closing. But then what I'll do is I'm just going to delete that. So I added the initial div with a class of actions because I want it to map to the same CSS I want it to map to the same CSS classes, or sorry, the same CSS selector and the same CSS style definition we've created pretty much. So I want that style to be applied to this div. And now, since we have the second div, I will go below it and close the initial div. And I should be able to just format it. So all I did is selected this and hit tab so that it indents it. And some spacing just, to make our file look neat and readable. So now we see we have the first div called actions. It's opening tag and the closing tag. And then the second div with no class or ID to it. And that div has our anchor tag and our span. Now, if I go back to our index.html, I can see that the second div that had the input and the select element, has a class of actions container. I'm just going to copy it and I'll be like, you know what? Let's copy it, and I want this second div to also have the same information. So I want the style for everything. I want the style for actions container to have it. And now when I go back to create note, the page, I can see that the style is applied. But the HTML, the anchor tag and the span tag, the styling is completely different from what we have here. And that's what we're going to style on next. Any questions or concern?
Not for me. But before we go ahead, for those who are currently listening in, noob advice. So for someone who is also learning how to format your code helps a lot in realizing where you might be missing some code while writing it. So like if you have like you're missing a closing tag, it's easier to detect if you have it formatted the way Abraham has his, where it's like indented and you can see the opening and closing for header, you can see the opening for the div class and the closing for it, and having it like indented in that way makes it like easier to detect any missing code,
Tags. Yeah. So if you have just having it indented, it makes it a lot more readable, and you are able to say, okay, yeah, I'm missing. So this is the opening header tag and this is the closing header tag, and inside it has a child of, I think of it as anything that's inside an opening and closing is a child. Anything that covers something that's inside an opening and closing, it's a parent. So the div, in this case, this div opening and closing, it has a child of h1 and it also has another child of h2. But this same div has a parent of header because the header has an opening and closing which covers it. So you can think of it that way. And when you create this indentation, it makes it easy for you to say, okay, yeah, this header starts here and it ends here, and everything inside is a child. Anyways, yeah, we're going to be styling this. I think the first thing I would want us to do, and is just to also show us the more capabilities of CSS. First thing I want us to do is, if you look at the home button over here and edited few seconds ago, I think there is a good amount of spacing between both of them, right? So what I'll do is, personally, how I'll solve it is looking at this div, the actions container. This div with a class of actions container, that's the parent that holds the anchor tag and the edited few seconds ago. Let's go there and see what actions container, let's see what the CSS is and see if there's any modification we can make to it to make it tell its children to be spaced out. And just by looking at it, first thing I can tell is, okay, most of the styling is just about its width, and it should have a margin. That's all. So there is nothing saying about, okay, your children should have this kind of spacing. And this is where Flexbox comes into place. So I'm going to, Flexbox is a new way, not so new, but it's a newer way in CSS or of styling. I don't know how to describe. It's not styling. Yeah, it's a new way of styling with respect to space and alignment. HTML element. Now, since this is a container and it has a children of A and span, okay, I'm going to say, okay, for actions container, we'll say to initiate Flexbox, or to make sure Flexbox works, for the browser to apply that, you have to select display flex. Now, when we do that, I should not expect to see any change. Well, there is a little bit of change. I don't know if you see it, but technically it's not really much of a change. This is it without display flex. And when I put display flex, you're just going to see it move a lot more closer. Just move a lot more closer. Now, I did explain this to you last week, Ralph. I don't know if you remember, where I was talking about how the we have an understanding that a div tag is a block element, a p tag is a block element, meaning that when you use a p tag, it's gonna go to the next line, or when you use anything you add to it, it's just gonna go to the next line and next line. Now, if you want it to disobey its that rule that it follows, you put display flex in its parent, and it's gonna make, what display flex does is it's gonna bring all of its children to align line by line. So instead of it being horizontally stacked, it's going to be vertically stacked next to each other. So because of the anchor tag and the span tag not being a block element, that was why before we added the display flex property, everything was stacked vertical. But if one of them was a blocked element, it's going to move to, it would have been stacked horizontally. No, sorry, it would have been stacked vertically. But because it's not a blocked element, it is stacked horizontally. I mixed up. So now we have to tell it, okay, fine, we've added display flex to the actions container. So what this does is, this div is going to give instructions to its children on how to align themselves. Now, how do we align? We want to tell it, okay, every children that's inside this div, it should give a space between them. And the way we do that is we say justify content space between. When I do that, or when we do that and we save and refresh, that happens. So it gives space between them. And to see this visually, I would add a background color to the actions containers, just so you can see what the yeah, I'll use this one. That's a lot more better. So now I will take out the justify content space between, and you're going to see, oh, you can't really see. Let's do red. Yeah. So now I took it out. I took out the justify content space between, and this is the full width of the actions container div. But because the moment you say justify content space between, so it's going to say, okay, how many children do you have? How many children does this element have? And it's like, oh, it only has 2. So, okay, push them to the edge, both of them, and just give them the maximum space between. But this is where it's going to blow your mind. Let's say we have another child in this actions container. So we have edited few hours. Oh, few hours ago. When I'm not going to, yeah, I won't add justify content, and I'll just like, it just keeps adding it to, you know, the next line as we expected. But when I add justify content space between, what is your expectation, since we have 3 children in that div tag?
They'll be side by side. Where you said
If so, I added, so this is actions container, the div that has the class of actions container, right? Now I added another HTML tag inside that div, and I'm calling it, I'm just going to say user. Let's assume it's the user name, right? If only I can spell. Now with justify content, when I add justify content space between, what is the expectation? Should it push the first element, which is the home link, to the left, and then every other thing is going to be to the right? What's the spacing gonna look like?
I'll say leave the home link where it is, but it will space out. Oh, never mind.
I've not done it. I just refreshed it to see, so that we can see the username. But I can show it to you. When we add the justify content space between, it's going to put space between all of the children in the div. So we have 3D. So if I were to even add another one and call this one 1, and I refresh and update, it's just going to share the space between. Now,
does it share the space equally, or do you know how?
It actually shares it equally.
Okay.
So it shares like the spacing equally. Now, we can do, just to teach you more, what's it called, property or values of the justify content. Let me update it. So we have these 3 children in the div. What if you want the space to not be in between them? You want it to be around them. So the home is going to have a space before it and after it. Same with the edit, and same with the username. There's going to be a space before it and after it. To do that, we don't use space between, we use space around. Thanks, Lil Nobody. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Lil, oh, I say Lil Nobody. Oh my gosh. Lil Newbie. Thanks, Lil Newbie. Back to the so yeah, we have justify content space around. When we refresh this, you're going to see it applies space around each and every one of the children. So we also have, for justify content also, we also have other values. We also have flex stats. What flex stat means is, oh, push everything to the stats, like just push everything. It should be towards the stat of that the axis. Then we also have flex end, and flex end just pushes all of the children to the end. So, but in this case, we're going to use a space between because that's what we want. And then I'll just take out this last HTML. That's this one. I'll just take it out. So just deleting the space there. And when we refresh it, so we have exactly the styling that we're following here. Now I'm just gonna take this.
And I just grab a glass of water.
Okay, sure. Ralph is gonna be back in a second. I'm gonna drink water myself. If you have any questions, just let me know, chat. Hey, haha, it's all good. I'm just watching. Don't want to distract. Thanks, Leo Newbie. Newbie. I don't know what I was doing there. I was just trying to enunciate, pronounce correctly the double Y. My day is good. Work was interesting or nothing really interesting. Depends on how interesting. Well, the usual walk stuff, and then at 6 p.m. CST we just started this. So my day is still going on. What about you? How was your day? Anything exciting?
Okay.
Oh wow. Learning to code, still new to it. How long have I been into coding? Uh oof. 20 2013, 2012. That was when I started learning, and then 2013 I was done learning and I got a what's it called, an internship of some sort. And since then I've just been working and learning and coding and learning and growing in it. But I know
Yes.
coding can be intimidating. My friend Ralph here, he has a story to tell with how the first time, because of the way university teaches it is so intimidating. But I hope someday you'll be able to teach more people because you've already learned and master the few
Yeah.
things you need to.
So yeah, I have a question. Like
Yeah.
regarding that, like, how do you get to the point that you feel confident enough to know that um you're decent at code to be able to apply your skills in the labor market, if that makes any sense? Like,
Yeah.
cause I could learn all this, so both HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel I'm pretty good, but how do I know when
You
I'm
are
good enough?
hireable.
Exactly.
Good. So um at the end of this, when we learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript,
Hmm.
I will try my best to teach you. Like, my main goal is not to teach you, because I don't think anyone can teach you to a point where you're like hireable, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna teach you and teach you on how to grow you personally, and also like understand what the market is looking for. Because, for example, let's just taking a segue here. Let's go to I don't use Indeed honestly, but let's go to no, I'll just go to LinkedIn. I'm sorry, I don't use
Yeah.
Indeed. And if we go to Indeed jobs, oh my gosh.
LinkedIn job.
And let's look for Meta, which is Facebook. They're hiring. Okay. I don't know which one this is. Okay, software engineer. Sure, yeah. And we look at some of these job postings. It says implement features using, like, just reading through everything. It says, honestly, just ignore the 2 years plus, because provided you can, for things like Meta, Facebook, and the rest, you still have to go through what's it called, an interview, and they might do a coding interview to just to make sure, yeah, you're not someone who says you can program but you can't, you know.
You can't actually program, yeah.
So yeah, and it says you have HTML or CSS. That's what we're doing. Okay, JavaScript. Yeah, that's what we're doing. And then there's this thing called ES6, which is a version of JavaScript. We're gonna get to that, but it's still JavaScript. Don't let it intimidate. Then it says experience with React. Now, what is React? React is a library. So the way we are writing, you're going to the way we are writing the HTML raw right now. If you remember, I gave an explanation with regards to how server-side render and client-side render, where
Yeah.
JavaScript produces the HTML instead of you writing all of the HTML. You still write the HTML, but you don't write the HTML file. JavaScript just, it does it for you. That is what React is. So it's a library that helps with that. So I'm going to teach you how to use React. And once you understand all of this, learning React is not going to be difficult, honestly. Yeah. I want to say it's going to be Yeah, it's not going to be difficult. Not to downplay, you might face some challenges, but it's not going to be difficult. Once you've learnt this and you are confident, now to gain the confidence is okay, you have to walk and you have to like look at things and try to build them. Try to build them.
Okay.
And then you build it and you have it on GitHub, which is an open source tool where you show the works you've done. And
Okay.
you're confident enough to say, okay, you know what? Looking at the way LinkedIn is now, I think I can build a UI like LinkedIn. I think I can build an app like LinkedIn. The moment you're able to do it and push yourself towards doing it, and you're able to complete this, you're able to build a whole LinkedIn, UI. And even though you're just using raw data for it and all of the functionalities, like you click on home, it doesn't like refresh the whole page, it just goes home and all of this thing, you're able to do it, then I would say you're confident. You're confident enough. At that point, you might also not feel you're confident enough, because once you start doing interviews, you're going to see a lot more. It's a whole different game. Don't let it intimidate you. All you just need at the end of the day is keep trying, learning. Because another thing with interviews is you're learning how to interview,
Yeah.
right? So you're
Yeah.
just
Hey,
gonna keep
Fasco.
learning and all of that. Fast go. Hello, Lil Newbie. Wow, that's awesome. Yes, you're doing great at explaining and teaching. Thank you. I'm still trying to develop my teaching skills. I have a couple of friends from my U of M days, CS days, that says, "Oh, I'm good. You seem like a good teacher and a friend." Ha 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 ha. Thanks, Fasco. Just follow to support the boy, please. And we're doing this every day, Tuesday and Thursday. So every day, Tuesday, every week, Tuesday and Thursday. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, at 6
It's
p.m.
at 6 p.m. CST.
Oh wow, that's so cool. It showed the
Yeah. I
show
was
the
telling you that
notification.
was broken the last time. I was
Yeah,
like,
it
yeah,
shows
why is
there.
this broken? But yeah.
So okay, what would you advise would be like a good way to test? So besides you say like okay, building a LinkedIn page, right? I hear a lot of people talk about like different online certifications that you can get like before you get to the point where you get like paid certifications, right? Are there any? I think there was a period I was looking into coding initially, and there were like some Google certifications you could get. I think you have something called AWS,
Oh
which I think
yeah.
is from Amazon. I'm not so sure if it's Amazon.
Yeah.
So like,
Um
where would you say like someone should start so they are confident enough to even get to the process of looking for a job in web dev, if you get what I mean? Because I could feel like I could build the LinkedIn page, I could go try, say, Uber Eats, and then I build it,
so
but
so
in
so
yeah, go
once
ahead.
once you're able to do that and you have the confidence that you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You feel that, oh yeah, you can build LinkedIn and all of that. So this is what I'm saying. Once you feel you are confident enough and you can build it, and you've built different application or different UIs to show that, you're able to do it. We are going to come into, once we're done with this, I'm going to show you how to use GitHub so that you can post it right here on GitHub. And this is my GitHub profile, right? I will go to incognito and post it there just so you see. So when I'm applying for jobs, I include my GitHub profile to my LinkedIn. Now, what happens is, oh no, oh no, yeah, let's go to the overview. So what happens is, when recruiters come to my GitHub profile, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I created this app, which is an app that replicates Spotify playlist to YouTube." I'm not done with it, but I was working on it and I just gave up on it. I'm like, yeah, I did a mobile app using a library called React Native a while back, and let's go. Oh, this is not. These are a lot. Oh, I have this expense manager, but I think it's down. Yeah, it's not there. So what was going to happen is you put this project in your profile, and then the what's it called? Recruiters would see that. Oh yeah, you actually have worked on stuff, right? And with that, if they're hiring a junior developer, then they can just contact you. Now, while you're waiting for them to contact you, you just have to keep improving your skills and networking, improving your skills and networking on Twitter and everything. Just keep improving your skills and networking. That's one sure way for sure that you're going to get what's it called? Those doors open for you. My story, should I give my story if that will help?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So when I did my diploma in web dev, learning HTML and CSS just like we are right now, I did a bunch. Like, I'm going to try looking for it. Hopefully, I still have those files. If you see some of the websites I designed, they were shit. They were so bad. Oh my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. Anyways, I did those, and I think I so I came to Canada and then I went to CS for computer science. I did not finish computer science. I dropped out. I'm a computer science dropout anyways. Dropped out from computer science, and since then I kept learning and I kept, okay, what's going on in the web industry? I know my HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And then I heard about React. So React JS, and React JS is just a library, is a JavaScript library. It's, as you see, it's a JavaScript library for building user interface. How does React JS work? If you look at I don't want to use this React, come on. So this is all JavaScript code, but you see this place called render. I don't know if you viewers can see.
Okay.
Calls render. It returns the HTML, and all you just have to do is you can write hello message, which is hello message like this, like a HTML element, and then you call react dom.render and you pass it to it, and it creates the index. It creates all this index.html file and edits.html file we're creating. It's going to automatically create it for you. So the only HTML file that we create at the end of the day is just index.html file, and then we tell JavaScript, oh, go to this index.html file and use it to create this app we are going to build. So I learned React, and after I learned React, I worked on some projects. I built some project myself, and I put them on my LinkedIn. Sorry, on my GitHub. And I kept learning and, practicing my skills and everything, building project and stuff. So finally something happened. Something paid. Because all this while I was still applying for jobs. And then the company that I was working has for customer service agent then had a role for React developer. And I was like, I know React. Like, I've done some project. Like, what are they doing that, So there was a meetup, a developer meetup over here in Winnipeg. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let me go there. Luckily, there were some developers from that company there. And I had conversations with them. And it's like, you know what? I'm having programming conversations with these people. I already know it, So that gave me the confidence. So that's why I say networking, right? And I was like, oh, are they hiring? And they're like, yeah, just to confirm, because I don't believe when companies put they're hiring on their page. Sometimes I feel like they're not hiring. They just leave it there for some weird reason. So after that, I spoke with my manager, and that company was like, can you help me? I would love to, move to this position. And networking again. I knew who the technical recruiter was on LinkedIn. Through LinkedIn, I knew who the technical recruiter for the company was, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm a hit her up and be like, hey, please, I see we're hiring for this role. Can I interview for the role? She's like, send me your resume. I'm like, oh shit, I don't have any developer experience, but I sent my resume and I put in my GitHub and I put in projects I've worked on, and luckily they were hiring for junior developers at that time, and I passed the interview, and that's it. And the moment you get, oh my gosh, maybe to give you all some motivation is the moment you get one interview, just one. That's all you need. It's all you need. The moment you get one interview, you're gonna or one job as a developer. Sorry, you need to get one job as a developer, and you've been working as a developer for a year in that company. Trust me, your DMs are gonna be flooded with roles like, "Hey, this is hiring. Hey, we are hiring. Are you interested in this role? I just look at this," and I can keep going down. Like, as you can see, I don't reply to a lot of them because I don't even come on LinkedIn all that one. So at this stage, your goal is just try to understand HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React, which we're going to get to, and build projects with that on your build projects with that and put them on your GitHub. Another trick you can do is building those projects. You can also start streaming while you're building those projects, and people are going to help you. That way, when you're streaming, you have it public, so that when you apply to jobs, recruiters Google who people are. They're going to see, oh, you know what, this person has a YouTube channel, and they're gonna see you coding, and before you know it, they'll be like, oh yeah, let's interview that person. Because if this person is teaching online or coding online, he's got that experience of some sort. So yeah, those are some of the ways. I'll do a more in-depth explanation and about all of this. Hi, Gernmo. Hello, how are you doing? Yo, Sudo. I was just giving some explanation regarding getting into the tech world and getting the confidence after learning the basics of HTML and CSS as a front end developer. And are you ready to so should we continue, or any more questions, Ralph?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Because I was just wondering, and yeah, you answered the question well.
Okay, awesome. I hope all of this does not scare you though.
Oh, me? Nah, cause like me, I'm very technical with things, right? Like
Strategic.
I know,
Oh
I
yeah.
was made for this. Oh, my microphone is low. Okay, share. One sec. Maybe I have to bring the mic closer.
Yeah, you have to bring it closer.
Okay. Like I know I was born for this. Oh, I think because I looked away. Yeah, when I look away, it
Yeah, when you
goes.
look away.
Um, but like the whole imposter syndrome, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. Like I know my stuff, but how do I know I'm not lying to myself that I know my stuff? Like how do I know I'm not deceiving myself and just thinking like I'm good, but I'm really you get what I'm saying, right?
Yo,
Because coming
yo,
from the will I say knowing the not the software side of things, the hardware
it's
side of things,
I
being very good with hardware, but having to move into software and coding and all that, like yeah,
Sudo
yeah.
just Sudo just describe it. Dev is figuring it out. Lie to yourself and everyone else, then figure it out. Honestly, that's what it is. Because anyone, like, even the smartest developers I know, they have imposter syndrome. And I feel like you can empower your imposter syndrome. That's something I'm beginning to learn is, instead of you thinking of, like, imposter syndrome has, oh, you don't know, like
Okay.
you're a failure. Think of it as, oh, you know what, you legit don't know, so you're just asking for help. You get? And that's all I've been doing. If I don't know, I don't know, just tell me. And then your co-workers and everyone, they're going to believe, oh yeah, you know what, you don't have any malicious uh intent. At the end of the day, it's better you admit that you don't know than you go break something. For example, it's better to admit you don't know SQL than you go connect to your production database and you do a drop database, which means delete the production data, delete everything, delete the live data. It's a lot more better you admit that you don't know. And in the software field, the good companies are encouraging that because it produces the best developers. It produces communication, harmony in work, and all of that. So,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome don't think you are the only one that go through that. I think one thing that helps is finding the community of developers, and you're going to see, oh, developers with 100,000 followers on Twitter and some huge YouTube channel, they're also going to admit that they don't know. That's why I'm also trying to, when you see, sometimes I Google, oh yeah, how do we do this? And I Google this because I don't know. Like, I don't know everything. I just know how to be a developer, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
It
Like you
has
know
a
how to,
lifestyle to it. You know how to Google,
yeah.
you know how to figure out, okay, you know what, this place is controlled by this code, this place is controlled by this code, so the problem is probably from here. Let me try to look through the code and understand what each and every section does.
Yeah, because the thing is, when you watch people who code and like show clips of them on,
I'm
say,
listening.
YouTube or on Instagram, like it's like these people are gurus. Because that's the way. That's why I had it scares me a bit. Because it's like, how do you know what code to type when? Like all the time, because it's like you have to know all these different codes for all these different functions for everything stored in your head at all times. Because it's like if you're getting paid the kind of fees that a dev is getting paid, I expect like the company is looking at you like, yo, we are paying you, you're out here getting like 3 to 4 times what the regular person is making. So you best know what the hell you're doing here. You can't just come here and yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do that. You have to know what you're doing.
Do you
But
know?
from what? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know that, like, even doctors still have to Google, quote unquote. I don't want to use the word, like, I don't want to use the word Google. They don't use like Google and be like, oh, how to do a surgery on this person. You get what I mean? But
Yeah.
they have an understanding. Has don't focus on don't focus on memorizing all of this stuff. Focus on understanding what it does. Because then what's gonna happen is, for example, we talked about Flexbox, right?
Mhm.
You have an understanding of, oh, Flexbox, when you apply flex to a parent element,
Mhm.
it's it arranges its children. That's all it
Yeah,
does.
okay.
So you now have to tell it how to arrange its children. So you can say, okay, you know what, in this specific case, how to align children in div using flex box. We Google it, and then Stack Overflow, and you're going to see that you're not the only quote unquote dumb developer in the world. I don't want to use the word dumb, but it's like, we don't like, one of the hardest thing in front end development is how to center a div. That
Yeah.
everyone jokes
I remember
about.
you and Sido making that joke.
I somehow got
Yeah.
myself into full stack JS/TS position. Now I'm just studying Vue. Nice one, Guillermo. Yo, keep it up, dude. Just keep it on. Just keep learning those tools, and and most especially once you understand the basic, learning all of those tools, it's going to be easy. Uh, I'm having, we are all having imposter syndrome in this industry, bro. uh,
Oh yeah, cause like the whole thing was I told you how like I'm someone who is more um issue solving driven, right? So like when I told you I had the issue with wanting to get the Stream Deck, but I couldn't afford the Stream Deck. So I found out that you could reprogram in numpad to basically
be a
not
stream deck.
reprogram the numpad, but like you could make scripts
Exactly.
to run with your numpad on your um
how how much of how much of the script you wrote did you understand with respect to line by line, versus did you, like, you knew that, okay, this section controlled this
yeah.
specific thing.
So how I was able to do it, that's why like if that's how coding works, then it's going to, I feel like coding is not really going to be an issue for me. Because what I did was someone previously made a script for other functions, but I just needed to know places in that script to edit to affect specific keys and do specific functions for what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
So like if I wanted it to put a particular um app on my, I don't know if it's execute a particular program on my system, I just had to copy the path to that program and then edit it into like the function of what I needed to do, and then it's wait, let me see if I can open um the script. Okay, edit the
Do
script.
you
Yeah,
we
so it's like run, and then you put it in a quote, right? And
yeah,
then you put the pathway for the exe file,
yeah.
and then it has basically the same type of semicolon format that code has, and then
Once
I just edited it to do what I wanted it to do, and then I looked so I wanted it to start like a button to record my screen, right? And the function to record the screen, I think, is Alt or Windows Alt S or something like that. So I had to go and check for this specific program what is Windows, and the Windows key was, I think, hashtag
and
hash key,
that's
and then exclamation, like copying that and then implementing it and running it, and it worked,
that's
right?
sorry to interrupt you, but that's exactly what programming, like, that's, I would say 40% of your time as a developer is just figuring those things. Like the way you were just figuring those things out, that's what you're going to be doing. So,
Okay.
um, I once worked on a project where it uses the payment system was failing. No one knows what the payment system is, right? No one knows. All I had to do was, okay, you know what? Let's just start reading this code to have an understanding. And also bear in mind, like when you are writing code, you want to make sure you are naming things to pass a message. Things are named in a way to pass a message, because you are not just writing code for yourself, you're also writing code for someone who's going to work on that project to read.
Yeah.
So you're going to find that, even reading code becomes is a way of developing your skills. Writing and reading code, they go hand in hand. It's a way of developing your skills, and it's also another way of, like, honestly, once you start going to YouTube, I say YouTube. Let me see if I can get it. Web dev practices. Let me see. Blah blah blah. Oh my gosh, these ones are so. I feel like they are so complex. This someone has this 2048, right? Let's go to the
Mhm.
index.html. Oh, I see they have div and they have a grid, a class of grid, which, thinking of a grid, what do you think of? Oh, a grid is like rows and columns, right? So
Yeah.
you know that, oh yeah, this is probably what makes everything a cell in that grid. It makes it to be in a grid format.
Mhm.
Just by reading this code, I don't know if everyone can see. Oh, I'm not sharing it. I'm not
Oh,
sharing it.
yeah.
But I went to this repo on GitHub, and I can see that, oh yeah, this index.html, this is a 2048 game, I believe. I'm gonna post this repo, and I think you can practice. You can try practicing the application, but it uses a format that we've not got into yet. So
Okay,
I'll.
so like when you say okay, so let me just use like let's say technical dumbass of understanding what I see here, right?
Yeah.
It's like the grid is like boxes. It's like, so the cell for the grid would be like the way you'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3,
Exactly.
4, 1, 2, 3, 4
Exactly.
boxes. So
And
like 4 cells, let's say 5 rows. I don't know which one is
yeah,
rows and
so
columns.
rows and columns. So
Yeah.
like just by looking at the name, you can know that, oh yeah, it's trying to, the person who wrote this is trying to pass an information. This div is a cell, this div is a cell, this div is a cell, you know, and this parent div that has all of this div is the grid. So you're able to say, oh, you know what, okay, yeah, this is the parent div that creates the cells, you know, and the CSS has been applied so that it looks like legit a grid and a cell, right? So I can then, okay, since it's grid and this is cell, I can decide to, let me go back. Let me go look for the CSS file. I think this is the CSS file, and we see dots grid, and it's like, oh, this is what the grid has, and the cell, and it has some CSS to it. And honestly, if it has a width of 15 vmin, we don't know what vmin is because I haven't taught you what vmin is, right? I can just Google CSS vmin, and it's like, oh, what is vmin, how to use, you know, just read up something, and it's like, oh, sorry, be careful for vim. Did I type vim? I was like, why is it not showing me vmin? Then it's like understanding vmin and vmax in CSS. Oh, so there is actually something called vmax, and then it says vmin uses the smallest of the viewport width or height. Vmax uses the largest of the viewport width or height. What is viewport? It's just the size of the screen.
Okay.
So then you know that it's using 15, let's say 15% of the smallest size of the v, you know, and that's, you keep reading the code, and then it has floats left, which is, oh my gosh, floats left does the same thing as display flex. When we do display flex and everything goes vertical, that's what float left. But it's really old, honestly. This is so old. Like, I thought this code was going to be but this is some complex CSS, honestly. This is some complex CSS, and I didn't teach you, like, I can't teach you all of the CSS, I won't lie, because I myself don't even know all of the CSS. But at the end of the day, if you want to know what this is, like .cell nth child, you can just copy and search for the colon nth child. Remember, we did something similar where we did colon hover. So there is a selector for nth child, and we can read up on it. Nth child, it specifies a background color for every p element that is the second child of its parent. Oh, okay, so they do p nth child second, background color red. Let's try it. We see they have 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, 3, 4 paragraph, and they said p nth child background red, and it made the second p tag red. So you're figuring things out like this. And now the inverse of that is, how do I make a background image? Let's do that. We just Google how to make background image CSS. And you see, it's one of the first things, CSS by W3 School, CSS background image property. And then you look, oh, on the body, this thing, they gave a background image and they passed the URL of paper. So, okay, let's look. And we see, oh, wow, they actually use a background image for that. So that means if we want to also do the same thing, we want to give our whole HTML a background image, we can come, oh, we already have a body selector, yeah? So we can come over here and say background image URL. I'm just going to look for some image in the browser because I believe it accepts a URL. I just have to make sure I'm right. URL, the URL to specify more than one image separates the URL. Like you can see, it's explaining what it even means. This URL, when you go down, it says CSS syntax, URL or none. So that means I could either do URL here, or I could do none, or I could do initial, or I could do inherit. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Like you can see the different values it takes. Okay, now what does URL means? The URL to the image, it's giving you an, So like we said, we wanted to use an image. So I'll just right click on this and be like, copy, yeah, copy image address. Oh my gosh. I'll just do URL. And if oh, I hope this works. I hope this works. I think it needs to be in a quote. I think it needs to be in a quote. And now if we go back to our page, see, it applied the background image to our HTML file. That's how I just learned how to add background image to HTML.
Yeah.
So this is for the whole body of the HTML. If you wanted it to only be in the header, that means you could also use this in the header. So if I wanted it to be in our, let's see, in our notes section, because the notes section covers everything. So I can refresh it. And when I go home, I see that it's there because we only have this note section in the home. The note section is only, yeah, we only have that div there. Note section. So it's like, oh, so if I can do this here, does it mean I can also do this here? Kind of mentality. You get what I mean? And like I said, it's more about you look at code and you Google what does this code do or what does this syntax do. At the same time, you think of what you want to do and you Google how do you do that, and then you look at the code, and that's how you're now learning. You're on both sides of figuring things out. You're learning and developing your skills as a web developer. Honestly, if you want to put you're a web developer right now in your bio, you can do it because you already know how to write some HTML, you already know how to write some CSS. So
Yeah. I
give us
want to be done with learning like the basics first before I start putting information. Because, but you know, I can change my Twitter. I can change.
But anyways,
Nobody, nobody's hiring me from Twitter, so that's allowed. So I'm just going to change it to web developer. Yeah, that's
anyways, not to waste further time, let's try to
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah. So
this.
what I could say, like, for you and Sudo, right? Like, if there are days maybe like when we are not streaming regarding teaching, you guys could have like talks regarding like what it's actually like to be
To
a
be a
developer.
developer.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people have that fear of going in,
Yeah.
and the whole anxiety
Yeah.
and imposter syndrome issues, which deters people who
Away
might be
from.
interested. Yeah, be like, yeah, knowing all this code and having to um memorize all this. I don't think I'm like that smart or
Oh,
whatever reason they might have.
everyone.
So having people who actually work in these companies, in these spaces, say, oh yeah, it's okay to learn. You have to learn, and actually tell you how, because people will tell you, oh yeah, it's always a process of learning, but
Yeah.
you still feel like they are lying to you because like there's no how you told your employer, yeah, I'm still learning, kind of still learning this code thing, and then you're like, oh yeah, we'll give you a job and pay you $250,000 a year. Yeah, take our money.
It's all
All
practice.
that.
It's all practice. But I
So
definitely will do
yeah,
that. I definitely would. Like I have that in my plans to do that for sure.
yeah,
Just not to waste time, let's try to get the design for this finished. The
yeah.
next thing we want to do is, so we've used display flex on our action. Yeah, we had on our
Oh
action
yeah,
container, we did
on
display flex and justify content so that this item
yeah,
will be spaced between each other, right? Now we
on the
want to
page, yeah,
style this, and we also want to style this. Edit that
yeah.
few
So
seconds.
like my give me one second, because I have issues remembering the specific name. So the action container, um, for how yours matches on both the index page and the edit page. For my edit page seems to have a smaller how do I call it, margin?
Did you
So
did
wait, let me switch. my screens. Where's OBS here?
That's a good one. I like this. Thanks,
Okay,
Guillermo.
so
Guillermo says he read somewhere that says junior developers do not actually need to know real coding. They just kind of have to get the ability to learn. And that's what it is.
oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good one. I really like that. I really like
Wait,
that. I think I will start, yeah, I will start, using
so
that
can
to
you,
encourage people. I can't really see your screen because it's blurred.
uh yikes. But you don't really need to see what's going on. You just need to see. So do you
Okay.
see like how this from here to here
Yeah,
is larger than
that.
this?
So, um let's look at my first thing is let's look at your actions CSS. And do you
Okay.
have your background color of F7, F7, F7? Your padding, do you have a 10 pixels padding top and bottom and 0 for left and right?
Just give me 1 sec. Let me switch my webcam back. Okay. Jesus. Having multiple screens can be helpful and disastrous at the same time. Okay.
Thanks for
Where's my
the follow, Guillermo. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but I think that's what it Gere Gero Gero oh my gosh.
Geronimo? Geronimo?
Geronimo. Oh,
Geroni-
Geronimo. Oh.
Geronimo. Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, we're behaving like
Hey, I'm sorry, man.
yeah.
Geronimo.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're Nigerians and the way we pronounce
We pronounce
things, we
things
have to
by
pronounce every
every
single
single letter.
letter. So Geronimo. Yeah.
Geronimo. Geronimo. I
Geronimo.
like that.
Wait, is it Oh my days.
Well,
It's Geronimo.
Geronimo. Oh my
Uh,
gosh, my Nigerian accent just does not want to allow me to pronounce it.
uh,
Geronimo, right?
yeah.
Geronimo. Okay,
He said like the song,
like the
so
song. Geronimo. Geronimo. Okay, I got it right. I got it right.
yeah. So yeah, you said I should check
So
what
check
and
your
what the
actions class,
okay.
and do you have the padding of 10 pixels for top and bottom for the CSS class?
Yeah,
Okay. The other thing is look at your actions, the div. Do
okay.
you the opening and closing div? Are you sure it has the actions container in it? So
Yeah,
it has actions container in it, and inside actions container, we have the anchor tag and the span tag.
yeah, Uncle Span, yep. Yeah. Wait,
Because
hold on.
the color, I see that the background color is being applied, so for sure the CSS is clean.
Yeah, let me try something. I think yeah, nah. I think it has to do more with
So what about actions container?
okay, what should I be checking
Do
for?
you have margin 0 auto,
Yep, max width, 600 pixel, display
display,
flex,
and justify
justify
content?
content, space between, yeah. Well, let me see your code. Yeah, I have exact. Let me see. Actions. I saw if it's some semicolon that is playing with me.
Oh, I forgot to ask, do you have your semicolons and your curly
Yeah,
brackets?
that's exact. That was the first thing I checked because that's all.
You
Kept
see,
on messing me up.
you're already learning how to be a developer. You make that mistake once, and you're like, oh no, I'm not making this mistake again.
Yeah, nah. So I don't know what exactly I'm missing. Let me see the HTML.
So for the header, we have the ID header, the in opening and closing tag, and then the div opening and closing, and it has
Yeah.
h1 and h2, and then we have the div class actions, which is opening and closing.
Was it the way I have my browser open?
I don't
Nah,
think
it's
it's
not
your way.
that.
Do you want to copy and paste, or I've I wanted us to do live share, but I don't know if you have live share installed in VS Code.
Yeah, nah. Well, I could
Copy and
live
paste.
share. Wait, when you say live share, it's like, that's live server.
No.
I can't see anything that.
Do you want to copy and
Oh,
paste the HTML for me, and you can post it on Discord, and then I would look at it.
oh, okay. The HTML for my edit page, because mine is kind of different from yours.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to, okay, yeah, Control A,
No,
Control C.
you're already a developer. You're like trying to, okay, yeah, I understand this, but can I use it in this style? Can I use it in that style? That's
Yeah.
so header, div.
Is there a way to paste it in like a format that makes it look like actual code?
Uh,
I feel like there should be. Nah, that's not necessary right
yeah,
now.
if you do 3 backticks, so that's this kind of this thing. You do 1, 2, 3, you paste it, then you do another
Mhm.
1, 2, 3 to close it. It's called, that formatting is called Markdown. So it's going to be like what I just sent to you. Anyways, I was looking at div actions container.
I don't think my keyboard has what you pressed, but okay.
It's the key before the number one. What's it called?
Uh,
Yeah. So I
yeah,
think
because
I
I
found
changed.
the error. Before your
Okay,
form tag, before your form tag, there
okay,
is supposed to be an opening. Yeah, your form tag is supposed to be in between the opening and closing div.
okay. Ah, but I have it underneath.
So I'm just
Let
going
me
to
try.
just to be able to inspect his. So you have the head, the body, and the HTML. So those are closing. Header, div, h1, h2, h2, div, opening div actions, and then opening div, closing div, opening div, closing div. The form is there. I don't think that should actually cause it though, but
Yeah, nah.
yeah,
I put a div around it, didn't change.
the form should be there. What's your CSS file like? Do you want to copy and paste?
Okay, yeah, let me see this Power being a tech bro is running into issues
That's how you
and
learn.
having your OGs
That's
check it
how
for you.
that's how you learn, my G.
So while we're inspecting or whatever, has anyone played the God of War on PC?
That's if we have anyone that's what's it called?
A
We're
gamer?
doing some live debugging, yeah. Live remote debugging. That's if anyone plays game on stream.
Not on stream, like personally, like I like to be like
No,
believe
I
that
mean
every
like the viewers.
I like to believe that every developer is also a
A
game nerd.
gamer. Ha 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 ha. You'd be
Yeah, cause
surprised.
so they're oh, wow.
You'd be
So
surprised.
imagine having it. Okay, maybe most people just code on their laptops.
Do you have your what's it called? Oh, you said it's only happening on the um
Edits. So like the um index page is different from the
from the edits.
yeah
Do you want to
yeah that's
change the background color of the actions CSS file? Change the background color just to make sure it is really that background. That CSS file really controls it.
okay, let me see. Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, it controls it for both. Yeah.
That is so weird. Actions dot container.
I can send you or you already have all the code. You could try opening it on your or you don't have like that shit. Or it's no worries. Let's just go ahead. I'll probably when I'm working on it later, I'll probably figure it out. It will be my take home
My
assignment.
my fear is like we won't be able to continue because whatever style we add next is going to affect or what doesn't VS Code has some live coding function by default? It could be yeah, it does, but no VS Code actually doesn't have because you have to install the extension live share. Actually,
What
let's
was the live share extension?
yeah, but
I think I could install it. Let me install it now. So
it
how do
does.
I?
But I know something better. Can you share your screen and then let's go to your browser. Let's do some live debugging. Actually, this is good.
on on my browser?
Yeah. So
I
share your
see
screen,
that.
share your browser, and then let's do some live debugging. And
Mm,
I would
that's
look for
fine.
how I can pop this out, and then you're gonna have to take out the blur though.
Oh, wait, is the blur affecting it?
Like I can't see nothing.
Right. Where's my Discord?
So that I can show. Oh yeah, now we can see your. So if you go to your browser, now I want you to right click. Oh, that should
Remote inspect.
yeah.
Okay.
Uh, I believe that is working. So if you
So
go home to the home page, let me see.
should I
Oh, I see the. Wait, click on
use
the. Go back. Go to the other tab. Click on
this?
the home page here. Let me see.
Um,
Oh, click on the create new. Create note here. Okay, let's right click and let's the debugger. Open the debugger. So I guess we are learning how to use the Chrome Dev Tools. Now you have the Flexbox. Okay, perfect. So
we going. How do I zoom in?
no,
Zoom. Wait, hold on. Is
hopefully,
there a way can you see?
yeah, we can.
I don't think everyone else can see though,
I
cause
can
like
see. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. Hold on, let me see. I think you can zoom on the Dev Tools by if you control and your scroll bar. What's it called? Your scroll. Yeah, yeah, that
okay.
makes it bigger. So I can see, but we don't want that. We want dev actions, the 1 second. So move the dev tools to the left because your image over here is a little bit.
Like do it
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Oh,
If you actions container. Yeah, just leave it like that. You can close.
I'm trying to.
I don't know
How do
if
I close?
you can't close that one. We kind of need it open actually, because that's how we see the
How
CSS
can
bar.
I? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. So now this is a little bit too. The margin is not being applied yet. The margin top and bottom is not being applied yet. So go to actions if you on the HTML. I don't know if you're following, if you're watching my live stream on your other screen. So
Oh,
over
no,
here.
one sec. Let me-
So right here.
Okay. On the DevTools or
On the
on the.
dev tools.
Okay.
So if you click on that, now change this to 40 pixels. I want to see something.
The
Yeah.
padding.
Double click. Yeah, you can change it to 40 and enter.
I don't need to enter just.
Yeah. So we see something is happening. Okay. Uh, something is
Okay. Here's what I think here. I think so the 10 pixels is that what direction of padding is that?
the 10
Was-
pixels top and bottom. First value when it's only 2 digits. First is top and bottom. Second is left and right.
uh, okay,
Oh,
so I changed
I think yeah, it's your font. Did you change your font?
I think so.
Oh, I think that's why. So let's go to your, I think it's your font that's doing it because of the style of your font, the size of
Okay.
your font. Yeah.
For which one? For this? Let me just remove all the.
Hmm. So if you go to the body, click on the body. If you let's before you do that, let's change the padding back to 10 pixels.
Okay. Yikes. How can I? Okay. Okay.
So we change it back to 10. Okay, good. Now let's go to the body. Right here. Click right here.
Okay.
And then we come down here and down here. I don't know if you can see.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's type font size, font dash size. So when you're doing this, when you're adding a format or a CSS to the body, you are saying apply to the whole page. So let's do
Okay.
1.6 REM. We talked about REM yesterday. So you
Yeah.
see, the moment we added that, it expanded it. It's because of the fonts side. 1.6 REM. Enter. If you just enter REM, enter. We want to go to then do fonts dash family. Now all of these changes we're doing right here is not happening in your code. It's just what's it
Yeah.
called? Yeah. So enter, I think. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. The you or tab.
Yeah.
I think it's tab. Font family tab. Then do Helvetica, capital H. Helvetica. Comma. The next thing is what's it called? Arial, Arial, comma, and sans serif. Enter. Now that is
Yeah, I think it's actually the font.
yeah, that is almost
Oh,
identical. The last thing is, what is the size of your filter nodes inputs?
should I inspect it?
Yeah, you can inspect there.
Oh, wait, which one? For the
Yeah.
is it for this? Okay, that I have to do a whole.
So for mine, the inputs, let's see. Font size 12 pixels. I had font size 16 pixels. You had 12. Had height of 30 pixels. Margin right of 10 pixels, which is correct. Had a padding of 5.7, but I don't think that would cost that. What about actions and yeah, actions and action container should be the same.
Let me just.
I think the font you're using might be causing it because yeah, actually it's the same with mine, but it's just because mine is oh my gosh, what the heck is happening here? What the heck is happening here, people?
I think you
Oh,
pasted
I have
my.
this HTML from yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the size of mine is also different. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ah, okay.
And this is where we go into typography because trying to get size of things is just like, oh my gosh. Like even looking at this, when we go home, the size is almost like there is. I'm going to get some sleep since it's pretty late in Europe. Thanks. I've forgotten how to pronounce his name correctly.
Geronimo.
Geronimo. Geronimo. Yeah, Geronimo. Thanks, Geronimo. Oh my god. Thanks, Geronimo. Have some good night's sleep because a good sleep is the best. Yeah, I think even with this, it's different.
Okay, then yeah, we'll sort that one out later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because with mine is also
So,
the same thing. But
yeah.
anyways, false alarm. Everything seems right. Well, not false alarm, but like false concern.
Possible.
Not to be concerned about it. Let's format the home. So now, since the home is a link, how are you going to take out the underline? Do you remember?
Give me 1 second. Yeah, I have it right here. So I first went into the HTML
Mm-hmm.
and changed the anchor, added the class home button to the anchor href,
Yeah.
and then created the CSS
Called home
uh,
button.
called home button, and then the text decoration none to remove the underline.
That's all. See,
Yeah.
you're already doing it. Text decoration, none. And then when we save it and refresh, underline is gone. We can definitely change the color to be what we have here, which I believe. Oh, actually, this one has the underline. So we can actually have the underline back by taking out the text decoration, but we can change the size. So instead of the font, because this is a lot more smaller, we can change. When I even think of it, this font size for this and this is the same. So I'm going to look, we have actions container And when I look at my actions container here, does it have a font size? It doesn't, but I don't want it to affect, when I go home, I don't want it to affect the font size for this. So I will use the individual. I'll just call this edit page. I'll call the class. I'll call this class edit page. I'll just edit page font. So I don't know. Edit action. So I'll do like edit page action or something like that, so that we know it's for the edit page and the action items, right? So I'll say action items, edit page action items. Now, what that means is I can reapply this class to also this element, the span element, right? Oh, hold on for a second. Oh, I just saw a bug that we did not catch, but I'm going to. So when I reapply it to the span element and I come here and I, use that, oh my gosh. I use that class, or I target the class, however you want to describe it. Edit page action items. I'm just going to delete all of this code. And I can say the font for that should, let me see. Dun, dun. 1.8. So let's say it's 16 pixels or even less actually. Oh yeah, 16 pixels. 16 pixels work. I actually also see that the anchor tag, the color is different. So if I look at the color is the same color as our background. So for me to target the anchor tag, since the anchor tag uses the same class, I can just do edit page space A. We learned about this, right? And then I can say color is that. Now, when I do that and refresh, it is not working because why isn't it working? Why you're not working? Why you? Oh, I think it won't work. It won't work. I know why it's not working. The reason it's not working because doing CSS like this, it's saying it's going to look for a parent class, a parent element called edit page action items. Now, every anchor tag, every child element in this parent class, this parent element, if it's an anchor distant tag, it should apply this. Now, this is where this is one of the things that it always gets. This is one of the things that always gets me. It's like, oh, I have a class, but I want to target, So let me just give me a second. Let me find it. Elements. I select only P elements with class intro. So now I want to select only anchor elements with a class. This. So to do that, I do dot the class name. When I do that and I refresh it, it changes the color. Ooh. Does that explain the magic that's going on? Yeah. So this is every anchor element that has a class of this. That's how we select it. And that is good for the edited a few seconds ago. Just checking to see if there is anything we need. I think that, yeah, that looks good. I will change it to last edited a few seconds ago because that's what we have here. Last, oh my gosh. Last edited a few seconds ago. Hey, carbon copy. The last thing we need to do is this form. Now we put this form in a div, just, when we are creating our sections, and I think we already know how we're going to format it. Let me see. I use the form here. I'm trying to understand the reason why I use the form here. Before I proceed, any question?
Nope.
Oh, good. Okay. Let's see. 1 second. So how do we get, remember, how do we get this whole form to be on this side?
Yeah, what?
Oh, actually, no. Before we, so now we want, the first thing we want to do is make sure, or the two things we need to do is, we want to make sure this form looks like this. First thing is, the notes title should be somewhere here. And then the notes text should be at the bottom, also in the middle, and then the remove notes should be, buttons should be down, but everything should be aligned here. So how do, remember we made this aligned here, and we also made this here. So we use the same CSS to get it aligned in that center. How did we do that? Do you remember?
Was it the one we did a div class inside of a div class? Or
Yeah,
a div class inside of a div ID?
yeah. But we can decide not to do an ID. I was just using ID over here as an example to show you the difference between ID and classes.
Class, yeah. Okay.
In this case, I can just call this form container. And then we can say the class of form container is what we are targeting. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember we said we give it a margin of what? 0 auto.
Yeah.
But for that to be applied, we need to give it a max width or a width. And in this case, we can give it a width of 200 pixels. I think it should be the same width as this, so 600 pixels, right? And let's refresh and see. And as you can see, it pushed everything and they're aligned in that same space. Now, we want after the input element, right? Because if we were to look at this, all of this, after the input, well, the input, since the input is not a block element, the text area is also not a block element, and button is also not a block element, they are aligning themselves horizontally. That's why they're not aligned. But we want to force them to align themselves vertically. Now, there are a couple of ways to do this, and I think I have a solution for us people. Just 1 second. 1 second. I just want to cross-check my notes to see if I had a different implementation for us, or if it's exactly how we want it. Oh, actually, yeah. So now I will show you a couple of ways to get this to be aligned in columns. Columns or row? In row, rather. Columns is when it's stacked like this. So since these three elements are not block elements, they are aligned horizontally along with each other. So now we can do something. We can target each and every one of this HTML using the parent class, right? We just did that with the anchor tag. So let's say we did the first one, which is an input element, and we say we want the edit page, no, the input element in the form container, my bad, because the input element is inside, is a child of the form container, right? If we want it to behave like other block level elements where nothing can go beside it, we can say display, and we tell it, oh, it should be a block element. So say we use the display keyword block, the same display we use for flex. When we do that and we refresh, nothing is going to happen because something is misbehaving somewhere. Hold on a second, people. Let me just verify why that isn't working. I will. Let me see if that is being applied to it. Oh, it's not being applied to it. Why? Oh, because it's inside the form. I have an idea. Let's do this. We take out the class from the div and we put the class in the form component, form element, and refresh. Still not being applied. Why? Why, oh why? Once. Okay, and like I said, even myself, I'm not the king of. Huh, but it's being applied here. Am I not doing something correct? How come this works, but this does not work? Oh, interesting. So, to make things simple for ourselves, let's take out the div containing the form, what's it called? The form element. So we'll take out the opening and the closing div, right? And then it's the form is going to have the class of form container. So when we do that, nothing should change. And then to style the input, what if I do form container? Oh, I'm using the wrong syntax rather. Form container and input, because when we do inputs.form container, we are saying every input element that has the class of form container. But if we want every child of a form container class, so if we want, okay, the class, the parent container, the parent element, for some weird reason I keep saying container, the parent element called form. The parent element is a form, which is a form container. It has a child element input. So we want to say anything that has, we want to target the inputs, which is a child of the class form container. We do form container input. CSS selectors, man. So, and now if we do our display block, oh, I'm gonna take that out. We put our display block here. It should work. Like, I'm betting a lot on this. It should work. Woohoo, it works. So this is where CSS selectors is like important, like making sure you are selecting the right thing. So we can copy this and paste it again for the next one. The next element under the form container class is text area. So if we put text area here and refresh, it changes it to a block element. And if you want, you can also do it for your button, but I'm not gonna do it for the button. Now we can style individually all of the individual elements. Oh my gosh, we can style each and every one of these individual elements. And to style the notes title, I will copy the style because we are running out of time and just paste it. So we have the display block, and we'll go, so which is for the form container inputs. But I'll paste it. Now, what am I saying here? We have 20 pixels. We have a border of 1 pixel solid, and the color is the same. What's it called? The color of the border is the same border color we've been using. A font size of 20 pixels. Font weight is like the boldness of the font. Display block, the margin on the top and the bottom should be 20 pixels. So margin top, bottom 20 pixels, left, right 0. So there's going to be space at the top here and space at the bottom. The padding, which is inside it, is going to be 12 pixels. And the width is going to be 100. So when we say the width is going to be 100, it's going to make it long to occupy the whole width of the form container, which is 600 pixels. When I refresh this and I said 100%, we see it's like long, and the styles we apply to it, it has the width above, the margin above. And this is a little bit too big, so I would say we should reduce the font size to like maybe 18 pixels. Oh, actually 18 pixels, and then maybe the padding also, I'll reduce it to 8 pixels. Let's see. Yeah, that reduces the, that's perfect. Any question?
No. No.
No question. Okay, next thing is the text area. I'm going to also do that. So first things first is we need the display block. So this is the text area, which is this. We're gonna have this, a border of 1 pixel solid, you know, because we want the nice border around it, right? The next thing we're going to do is the font size. We want the font size to be a little bit smaller than the font size we have for our title. So I'll copy this and paste it and make the font size to be, let's say 16. Actually, let's say 12. Let's say 12. I want it to be really, really small. Or 15. Nah, 12. Next, we want the font weight, which is the thickness of the font, to be 300. It should be the same thing as the title. The next thing we want is we want spacing between the top and the bottom. So we want spacing, like we want a lot more spacing here and the bottom. So we're going to use margin, and we're going to give it a margin of, let's do the same thing as we have here. So margin of 20 pixels top and bottom, margin of 0 left and right. And refresh, and okay, everything is beginning to come close. Now when you look at, I'm going to teach us a new property that we haven't learned, a new CSS property. When we look at this and we look at this, we see that this is so much small, even though you can readjust to like expand it, you know, but we don't want this. We want some consistency. And actually this is small. Yeah, this is so small. I think I'll make it 15 pixels for the font size. Yeah, that's so much better. 16. I'll do 16. So in order to make this, as I was saying before I got disrupted, in order to give it a minimum height, because we want the height to be like this, and for this I believe the more you type, the more it grows, right? I can come here and say min height, min hyphen height. Min height means what's the minimum height. And I would make this, let's see, hold on, 15 times 16, yeah, 200. Let's make it 200 pixels. 200 pixels. When we make it 200 pixels and we refresh, we see, oh, the mean height is this. Also, we see that the width is not occupying the full width of the parent container. So we can add our width and we can say it should be 100%. When we say 100%, it's like, okay, 100% of the available space given to you. And it's going to make it longer. And when we type here, we see there is spacing around the text that's been typed versus, what's it called? There is spacing between the text that's typed and, you know, and the border. But while with this, the text is like really hogging the border. So we're going to give it a padding. I'll say padding should be the same thing as, I'll make the padding the same thing as, what's it called? The input element. So 8 pixels, and then we refresh. And there is similarities, you know, between both of them. Like, you know, they're looking almost the same. Maybe this is a lot more shorter. So we can reduce the mean height to be like 180 or something. Oh my gosh. So it's saying the minimum height, right? And yeah, that looks decent. The next thing we're gonna do is, the last thing we're going to do is the button. So we styled, if you remember, we actually styled this anchor tag and that was easy. But the button for this might be different. So in order to target this button, I would use the same CSS selector, which is the form class, but I would change it to button instead of the form class. Yeah, I'll change it to button instead of text area, instead of it being text area. And I can do crazy things with the button. Honestly, I can say the width of the button should be 100%. What do you think is going to happen if I make the width of the button 100%?
One sec. Would it run all the way from where the enter next, like the distance of the enter note text, like from, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not
Exactly. It's
sure.
going to expand
Oh,
it.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. But we don't want 100% width for the button. So what I would do is, let me just look at how the button is styled. Remove note. I think we want a background of this background, because we are not using background color, we're using background because we want to later we want to use, I can see there is a hover on this and it transitions. So we'll use a background of #888. It definitely has a border of some kind, because I can see over here at the bottom it's a lot more thicker, so it has some kind of border. And the rest of the style is just the same thing as our create notes button. So I think color is white, font size 16, padding this, and we can just do transition background is just copy the same CSS from create notes aside the background. And if I paste it there, now if I paste it there and I refresh, we see that, oh, you know, there is some kind of a style to it. One thing for sure is it has a border. A button by default has a border all around it, so that's why the right of it here looks like there is a border. So we are going to, before we put the border button, we are going to do a border of none and colon. When we do that, it changes it. Now the only thing when we click on it, it works. The only thing left for us to add is the only thing left for us to add um is the hover state, and to add the hover state is just easy. We've learned about it. You are still selecting the same button, and then we put hover, and then we can see the background should change to a thicker color when it's hovered. So I think it's going to be ash. 6E, 6E, 6E. When we refresh that, it should be the same thing. So when we hover, yeah, it's looking good. One thing I want to change is the font. Like looking at the font style for this and this, they're different. And I'm just going to try something. Yeah, I'll do font dash family. Let me say inherit. It should inherit the parent font family we're using, and it changes it. Yeah, so by default text area uses its own the native font. So if you want to change the font family, you can change it, but I'm gonna say inherit so that it inherits the parent fonts that we've defined to the body of the HTML. And that's it. Any question?
Not right now, no. Oh, if I run into anything, I'll bring it up next class.
Tuesday. Okay, and we've come to the end of CSS, kind of.
Yeah.
We've come to
I
the
have a
end.
lot more self-learning to do.
Yeah,
But
you still have a lot more self-learning, but you can
yeah,
always ask questions. And then once we start JavaScript, we're also going to be applying pretty much everything we've learned, and also learn more of JavaScript. Exciting, eh?
yeah. Once I learn JavaScript,
It's over.
I am now a developer. I just did learn officially.
Anyways, this has been fun.
Yeah. Do you have chat open?
Yeah, I don't think I have any question from chat, so
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you guys once again for joining us in today's pathway to becoming a tech bro, pathway
You're
to
still
web
on
dev.
this.
No, we're still trying to become a tech bro. That's the whole purpose of
Okay,
everything.
whatever.
But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in once
Thanks for
again.
tuning in, viewers. I appreciate the comments, the encouragement, and everything. So
Yeah,
it's Abe and Ralph here. So see you same time next week on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And have a good weekend. I might be streaming this weekend also, actually. So maybe some
Okay.
people might see me for some other stuff. But yeah.
All right.
Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye.
Stay
Take care.